The film series that won't die. Nearly 30 movies, one house, actually several houses, and cursed artifacts.
The Amityville Horror Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Amityville Podcast. I'm Pat.
I am Tom.
And this week we're going to be watching the Amityville Terror.
From 2016, this is another Amityville movie. We haven't done much research on it. Although we did find out that the house that they're using in this one is the same house that they used for the Amityville house in Amityville: The Evil Escapes, the made-for-TV Patty Duke Amityville movie that immediately went to the West Coast.
Yep. So we're not sure if this is... It says in the description that this is an East Coast house, that this is the original Amityville house.
Yeah.
So we're not sure if it's doubling for California or if it's just the scene that was used in the East Coast scenes from the original. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. Patrick, what's another word for terror?
A frightmare. No. Just horrifying.
Just horror.
Yeah.
Horror. They're trying, like, this is... Like, I like how, like... We've established in previous episodes that, like, they can get... Like, all of these movies can get away with... Nobody owns the rights to the word Amityville. It's a town. It exists. Hell, nobody owns the rights to the Ronnie DeFeo thing. The only thing that really gets you in trouble is trying to use the story of the Lutz family. But the fact that they're calling it the Amityville Terror as opposed to the Amityville Horror, they really went all out. Broke their backs, pulled out that thesaurus, and found the first immediate word synonym for horror.
Yeah, what's the most clever thing we can call this? Well, what's 1-to-1? Oh, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how many surprises or scares we'll see in this one, if the creativity started or stopped with the title.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is another one of these... We're going into these things so blind that we can't even say that they have any production value or any sort of studio backing.
This one might have cost $100 or $100,000. We don't know.
Yeah, but what is terrorizing? What are some horror, like, what are some movies that have actually scared you in the past?
Fan of horror. I've seen plenty of them, and after a while, you know the tricks.
Sure. But
I will say that one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
That thing is a nightmare.
Yeah, that movie is front to back just unrelentingly scary, unnerving, uncomfortable. I watched it a couple months ago, and it really just kind of rebooted, like, that weirdness in my gut when I'm watching horror. Like, it rebuilds your empathy for the victims. It makes you remember how absolutely scary these situations can be because it plays them so realistically.
Yeah, that's one. I tend to rewatch a lot of Joe Bob Briggs Drive-In on Shudder, but that Henry Portrait of the Serial Killer, I've watched it once with the Joe Bob breaking in, but that one is usually whenever I'm in, like, they do a thing with the Just Joe Bob where they don't show the movie. That one on quote unquote rewatch, I do just the Joe Bob because the interviews with the writer-director are fascinating about the production of the movie. I don't really want to watch that movie that often, if ever.
It's a soul burner.
Yeah, no, it's just terrible. There's nothing redeeming about that movie, which is part of what makes it so terrible. That a person like this could exist, even if the real Henry Lee Lucas is not even half as bad as the movie character. He's still half as bad as the movie character.
Yeah, and I mean, you say irredeemable, like it is. For its intent, completely successful.
Oh yeah.
It is an incredibly well-made movie.
Yes.
It is just. You're not getting any sort of good morality out of it.
There's no catharsis by the end of the film.
It is
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. It's just bleak.
Yeah.
So.
Like, mine tend to be, depending on what, like, it depends on more when I saw them. So, like, the first movie I remember scaring the pants out of me, like, other than Pinocchio, because Pinocchio. But I saw A Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 5. Like, when it was on cable after it came out because back in the 80s, parents didn't care what you were watching, which was both good and bad. So it's like, on the one hand, my parents did something terrible letting me watch it. On the other hand, it may have been very smart because I didn't want to watch another horror movie for like 10 years. Then it was I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street ones on TV because if they were on TV, they couldn't be so scary because they would have to cut the worst parts out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the first major one I saw, I was 6 years old, and it was the night that The Thing was premiering on HBO.
Yes.
And my friend across the street, his mom was a huge horror buff, and so there was an invite to stay over and watch the movie, but had to get my mom's permission, and so I was cleared, as long as he knows it's just a movie. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's just a movie, they're actors.
Just keep repeating to yourself.
It's only a poodle, it's only a poodle. Oh, wait, that's the Boneyard. But I'm watching the movie, and it gets to the middle where they're doing the autopsy.
Nice.
And I had scooted up closer to the TV the whole movie, just wanting to see more. And then the guy's chest bursts open with the giant teeth.
Defibrillator scene.
Yes.
The autopsy's earlier.
Well, okay, sorry. Yeah, defibrillator.
I thought you were going to say defibrillator earlier, and I was like, okay, I mean, the autopsy scene is disgusting and terrible.
Yeah.
So clinical and evil, but yeah.
Me, not science words good. But yeah, the defibrillator. The chest opens up, bites the guy's arms off, at which point I start scooting backwards across the carpet.
Yeah.
And right when the neck has stretched out and split off and hits the ground to run off.
Spoiler alert for The Thing. Sorry.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, come on. But as the head hits the ground, my back hit the couch.
Nice.
And so I just screamed, bolted up, ran straight out the front door. I'm running across the street just screaming gibberish. Oh my God. Yes. And my mom is at the front door with it, like, what's wrong? And my neighbor's mom is just, yelling across the street, it was the movie. I run in and slide across the carpet and grab the old Caltech TV remote, which was one of the corded ones, and spin the dial to HBO. And put it right on, and my parents were like, are you sure you want to watch any more of that? You seem pretty terrified. I'm like,
yes.
If I don't see the credits come up, then I won't know it's just a movie. I need to see that so I won't have nightmares.
Oh, that's a clever con.
But I didn't have nightmares because I saw how it ended, even though it's a bleak ending.
Yeah.
I saw the ending, I saw the names come up, and so it never gave me nightmares, but that movie still scares me to this day.
Oh, totally.
And because of that, my mom wanted to show me her favorite scary movie, the one that scared her away from him. She showed me Psycho.
Yeah.
I get to the end of that movie, and Norman runs out in a dress, and I turn around, what the fuck? And my mom's like, I know. Oh. And she just had this look of disappointment because I think this was supposed to be, you like cigarettes? Here's a whole carton.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's more of these, right? Yeah. So I started watching a lot of Hitchcock early.
That's fair. It was funny. Like, The Thing is legitimately terrifying. I remember showing it to my brother for the first time. He was in college, and so he had been watching horror movies for a while. But like, I put the DVD on, and he said something at the beginning that made me ask the question, wait, have you never seen this before? He said no. And so for the rest of the movie, I was just watching him. And then sure enough, when the defibrillator came, he's like, what in the hell?
Yep.
That is probably the most perfect scare.
It really is. There's nothing like it.
And nothing it's just giving you, like, even though you know what this thing can do, you're not prepared for it.
That entire sequence is not just a 1-2 punch, it's a 1 through 12 punch, because the chest bursts open, the arms get bit off, the head stretches off, the head sprouts legs and eyes and runs away.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
You have, flamethrower to the guy in the corner of the room. Like, all hell breaks loose in just scare after scare after scare. And you realize how completely screwed everybody is.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't trust anyone. You shouldn't count on anyone to make it. Like, it just upends the table entirely.
It really does. It's so good.
Yeah.
And now let's watch a movie that will be just as good as The Thing.
Fingers crossed. I mean,
fingers crossed. Yeah. Maybe it'll be terrifying. I think the most recent terrifying one. Like, honestly, The Ring got me. Like
Yeah.
the Ring
Yeah.
is like much like The Thing. It practices on creating suspense and then giving you a moment where you think, oh, everything is fine, and then the kid says, "What do you mean you helped her?"
Yeah.
And everything is just the worst thing ever, as you knew it was going to be, but they trick you for like 30 seconds into thinking it won't be, and then it becomes the worst thing.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Love that. The American version of The Ring, I should specify.
Yeah, the originals just, I mean, they're
It's
well
good.
made, but I just don't remember them that well.
They just, I mean, it may just be the culture, the culture clash, like, or not culture clash, but the like differences in culture. It just doesn't connect as much for me as you would, as the American one does. But I mean, I do love a lot of Japanese horror films, and they are very unnerving. Not just the Takashi Miike ones,
Right, yeah,
but-
I mean, yeah, Audition, you know, Happiest Guitars, you know.
yeah. But the American version of The Ring is one of those rare American English language remakes that's just like, wow,
nailed
you
it.
really nailed this thing. And it also helped that this was like one of is that the third Gore Verbinski film? Like, I know he did Mouse Hunt.
It was-
maybe The Mexican.
I think it was Mouse Hunt, Mexican, then The Ring.
And so it's like Gore Verbinski was really coming into his own as a filmmaker. And even though he hasn't made one that I've enjoyed in quite a while, I still love him, but don't see a cure for wellness. It's really not good at all.
Yeah, and Lone Ranger. Yeah.
You know, I subscribe to Quentin Tarantino's assessment. The first 40 minutes of that movie, everything up to him becoming the Lone Ranger, is great.
Yeah.
And then the last 30 minutes where it's all that big train chase, that's great. It's that hour and a half in the middle, which, dear God, why is this movie this long to begin with? But everything in the middle of that movie is not good at all.
Yeah.
But the bookends
There's some
are
fun
so
bookends,
good.
but it just, yeah.
Yeah, so watch chunks of it, but after that. But you know, he'll always have made Rango, and that is an achievement, like by any criteria.
And another favorite director of recent years, Adam Weingart. I know you're not.
I know the name, but I can never remember his movies.
Well, the main one I'm thinking of is the most recent Blair Witch sequel. The last half hour of it completely and utterly got under my skin. I was just the entire time heart racing. I was in. I was completely hooked. I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't quite know what was going on until they wanted me to know. And I thought that they built up all of the elements that would play into that chaos very well.
Gotcha.
It was seriously like 20 minutes after the movie, driving home, I was still keyed up from it. So that one really got me.
Okay, yeah. Recent terrifying movies. I saw The Color Out of Space in the theater.
Oh, nice.
That was a tough ride home.
Yeah.
That was just, I immediately went to the local bar on not one of my bar nights because, like, I don't want to be alone right now at all. Because The Color Out of Space was the big budget, totally committed to the H.P. Lovecraft adaptation that we've all wanted. Like, there have been good ones. Like, Reanimator is great, but it's silly. From Beyond is great, but does not have the money to really do what they wanted to do with it. But what they do, From Beyond is great as it is. Don't get me wrong. But my God, this is like Spielberg level looking movie based on an H.P. Lovecraft story.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
And because there's been some concerns with the director, to put it mildly, the studio actually has put out a
Richard
thing.
Stanley?
Yeah. Yeah, he's canceled. But
Oh, really?
oh yeah.
I didn't know.
But because of the things that came out about him that have been pretty well verified, the
that's a shame.
studio has said, yeah, we're not going to make any more money off of this. Any residuals come in, any money that comes in off of this movie is going straight to charities.
I mean, that's good.
It's good, and they're taking ownership of. They own this movie, but yeah, they don't want to profit off of this guy. So
fair.
if you do rent it or purchase it, the studio is trying to make right off of that, which I think is very nice and
That
very
is
rare.
very nice and rare, but now I'm bummed that I really like that movie. And I
Here's
didn't
the
want
thing.
there to be anything that I have to qualify about it.
A
now.
lot of our favorite creators can turn out to be bastards. Again,
accurate.
I just
Yeah.
cited Psycho, and Hitchcock was not known as a nice guy.
No, he was not.
Yeah. We like, Stanley Kubrick movies.
Yeah,
and
also not a nice guy.
Yeah. So.
Bummer.
And sadly, Ron Howard has never made anything terrifying, and he is a supremely nice guy.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he makes good movies, though.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, on the horror side,
I mean, has he ever tried to make a horror movie?
The Hunted was kind of horror-ish.
The Tommy Lee Jones film?
Yeah.
Really?
That's about as close as I can think of.
I mean, I would have gone Willow, but... Actually, Willow, when they all start turning into pigs, that was terrifying.
Fair,
For
fair,
me,
fair.
as a kid at the time, I was like, oh god, what is happening and why?
Yeah.
But yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's Ron Howard. Not everybody needs to be a horror director.
Oh, no. I was trying to pick the nicest guy I could think of out there, and...
Ron Howard it's hard to not, like, when it is revealed whatever the hell he did, it will be soul-crushing.
I just don't think it's in there. He's been in the spotlight his entire life.
And that's why it will hurt all the more.
Fair.
No,
Ron City,
we have absolutely nothing on Ron Howard as far as we know. He's actually everything he says he is. And we're sorry. We're just making a bad joke.
Yeah, it was a poor example. Me not make example good either.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. With all of that totally on point for the Amityville Terror, we'll see you in a minute or so.
Yep. And we're back.
Wow!
Not expecting that.
That was great!
That was a lot of fun. That's the most fun I think we've had since the remake.
Yeah, it is. It's been a while since, like, we don't have to say anything ironically or caveat it. This was just good. The Amityville Terror, which is on Tubi. We watched it on Tubi. Go watch it on Tubi. It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's one. We're going to, as we always do, go through the plot. If you want spoilers, listen. If you don't, or at any point, feel free to check out and then come back to us.
Yeah.
The first chunk of this movie sets up the most generic of tropes, sets up all of the things of angry teenage daughter, parents are struggling, just bought the new house, moved in with the aunt who bought this house in Amityville that is...
renting the house.
Yeah, or renting the house. It is arguably the house from the original.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on a different street. It's on Amity Street instead of Ocean.
Yeah. And it's not on the water. Are we doing the general, or are we getting into it?
Let's do the overview of it. It's not the original house, but it is. It doesn't look like the original house because they used the house from the LA one.
Yeah.
They do say that this is in New York. They have New York plates.
They do.
And it is the most LA looking part of New York. Palm trees.
So much sun in upstate New York, like you wouldn't believe.
And that LA kind of beautiful to all the people.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you can get past that, it's not actually New York if you're precious about that.
Yeah, and if you are, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, let's dive in.
Man, this thing opens up at the end of a horror movie where it's the husband and the wife are desperately trying to grab whatever they can grab to get out of the house, which is trying to kill them. They almost make it out. The husband is out of the house, and the wife is almost out the door when she sees a horrific apparition of her dead child. We're talking like he's maybe 8 years old. He's gray everywhere and has a pentagram carved into his forehead.
Yeah,
and
black around the eyes.
Yeah.
And just...
full thing.
Yeah, like...
Mommy, don't leave me alone.
That's not our kid. It's not our kid.
No, Mommy, don't. And then, so she turns back. Dad busts back into the house to find that First, the kid, first, the mom runs back. Bear hugs the kid. The kid is hugging, and then looks over her shoulder at the dad and gives this demonic smile, and his eyes turn white. The door slams shut. Dad busts the door back open, and only to find that his mother is strung up a la Sergeant Tate in Silence of the Lambs. Like, we're just like, she is hanging from the rafters, her guts are all spilled open, the door slams shut, and then it cuts to the opening title and the credits. But here's what makes this great. it never says 28 days earlier, 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
No, you don't see that family for a while.
Yeah.
I won't say never, but
Yeah, but like you get that, and you're like, oh, this is the story of that family.
Exactly.
It is not.
It is not. It is a completely different thing.
Yeah, this is just another family that was in this house.
This terrible, terrible house, with lovely Baroque furniture.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
So
the
much
kind of
character.
Baroque furniture that makes you move into that house quite specifically.
It's so much character in this old house. Like, it's amazing.
This new family's getting the tour and loves the furniture because it comes furnished because...
You're right. It's a rental.
Yeah.
You're renting
the house. You're not moving everything in.
The Amityville house.
Yeah, and why the previous families may not have taken their furniture with them. You can assume.
You just leave. You just leave your stuff.
In a hurry. Just, key clothing, maybe a few photos.
Yeah, it's nothing. There's nothing weird about it. I don't know why you're bringing it up. So we have a new family with Todd, our dad, with all sorts of oh God, was it Keith Horton? Who is the other guy? Who's
Peter
the guy?
Horton?
Peter Horton. Full Peter Horton hair, like 30-something hair.
If you took Peter Horton's like 30-something look and put it on Texas Chainsaw 3, Leatherface's Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, just like
It's
a
kinda
dude
like-
with that hair.
Yeah.
Looking good. Mom Jessica, and then Haley, the unrelenting fucking bitch teenager.
All of the snotty teen tropes, doesn't want to go to school in a new neighborhood. It's
Hates
just
the
going to
move.
suck, and everything sucks, and I hate you, Mom, and Dad, you're a jerk. And
She hates her Aunt Shay,
Yeah.
the person that has actually rented the house. Aunt Shay has had a checkered history of substance abuse, but Todd assures everybody that she is over that and she's gotten her life back together. And once you meet Shay, she appears to have gotten over that and
yeah, she
has her all
seems
life
to be
together.
doing all right. The first indication of her checkered past is the snotty teen calling her a crazy drunk.
Fucking Haley. Who does that? Like, who just, like, goes out, like, moves into somebody's place and then says, hey, like, why are you still drinking? Why are you, like, I don't want to live with you. You were a drunk.
Yeah,
her
and she's
aunt.
complaining about everything. She's complaining about the flowers in her bedroom, even though it's recommended she keep them up because flowers improve your chi,
Indeed.
even if it's wallpaper.
Aunt Shay's a little bit of a hippie.
Yes.
There are worse things
Oh,
than
yeah.
being a hippie. Even though I appreciate not wanting to live with a goddamn hippie.
Yeah, and not wanting to live near crickets, apparently. Haley goes off how much she hates crickets. It becomes a micro debate.
Yeah.
But, enough that it was worth making a note, I guess.
Yeah, it cannot be understated. Haley hates everything. And what's crazy and yet still entertaining by the end of it is she never changes. She never
she's
grows
still-
as a person.
No.
She hates everything at the beginning of the movie. She hates everything at the end of the movie. It's just by the end of the movie, you're sort of rooting for her.
Yeah, you've come around on some of the things she hates, if not all. But at the same,
It
the
helps.
crickets are a little much. But
It helps that she has a dirt bike and a miniature crossbow that she takes both everywhere.
yeah,
It's kind of nuts.
and I was gonna say she also tends to wear shirts that expose her midriff, but that's most of the women in this movie.
Yeah, there is a high percentage of casting that appears to have been not necessarily the local strip club, but there seems to be a lot of people, a lot of the women in the movie seem to have exotic dancing in their history at some point.
At least with like some of the way that they move around the room,
Yeah.
especially the landlord.
Delilah.
Just like she'll round a corner in just the most elaborate way.
Making sure you see all of the goods.
Yeah, like there's some showmanship involved. So even if they just tone themselves at expose fitness,
Yeah.
but there's definitely a theatricality that's specific.
Yes, which is not to say there is no judgment on this.
Oh, no,
It's
not at all.
We are very, very sex worker positive on this podcast,
Yeah.
not just for prurient reasons, but also because, hey, it's your job. You do your job. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It was just oddly noticeable.
Yeah, it was a very specific type of movement, and they tended to go for some fashion choices. Again, the exposed midriffs, Just very
like the skirts that only go down to like the bottom of your butt,
right?
Sorts of things. Like the odd choices for what is just a housing manager, you know, a property manager. But you know, hey, she's living her best life, so who can we argue with? Or we can't argue with that. But it was funny, and the teenage Haley wearing midriff shirts. Like, there was a lot of, like, teenager fashion choices in this movie that were not incorrect, but they were a decade off, which is kind of funny, because this came out in 2015, it's set in 2015, and yet you see a lot of girls in midriff shirts and knit caps.
Knit caps, a lot of, like, you know, checkered patterns or flannels going.
A lot of grunge.
Yeah. So, yeah, just a weirdly anachronistic. I think maybe that's what LA thinks of New York.
Yeah.
Or at least, you know, or New Jersey. Technically, it should be, but...
I thought Amityville was upstate New York.
I thought it was Toms River, New Jersey.
Huh.
It's a detail we'll continue to get wrong until we finish this thing.
For real, and then afterwards. But so they move in.
We're not going to do any research until we're done.
Absolutely not. So they move in. Haley is so shitty to Aunt Shay. And within a day, we have visions of a guy with an axe in the window. Haley is practicing her crossbow, and Jessica, the mom, starts working on the garden and finds a creepy baby doll buried in the flower patch.
Yeah, and this is not your traditional Cabbage Patch Kid. It didn't come with its own birth or grown certificate like they used to. This is just standard baby doll, just buried in the backyard.
Which she keeps.
Yeah, she washes it off. She tries to clean it up.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And this would be what attempt number 2 at Todd to initiate sex. Mm-hmm. Todd keeps trying to have sex with his wife, and it's always the same exact move. He hugs her from behind, he kisses her exposed shoulder, and she immediately says no. This, we later learn in like a one-line throwaway thing that Haley had a brother that died. Mm-hmm. We don't know how, is it like a twin thing? And
we are given no real information on it that at least I noticed.
Yeah. But that could be part of why Jessica is
maybe it was recently, but it's not talked about like it's recently. It's definitely talked about more that the father and Shay,
their mother,
Todd and Shay, their mother had recently passed. Shay had been taking care of the mother, and when the mother passed, that's when Shay asked this other half of the family to come up to Amityville and move in with her to a new house. Yeah. I don't get the logic of that, but for whatever a family needs.
Exactly. And then after she's washing off before she goes to wash off the plant, we get the failed attempt at sexy times. Jessica goes into the basement to look for some gardening supplies, and we have the return of basement blood. And this was the first sign of how good this movie was going to be for our purposes. The people that made this movie actually are making an Amityville movie. There are the Amityville tropes. There's weird goo in the basement.
Yeah.
We are moving into a new house, and we are seeing visions or just little images of murderous looking people. And then it just keeps going.
Yeah.
And then we meet Delilah, which, Delilah is kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, before we got to Delilah, Haley decides to go off on a dirt bike tear. And the music that kicks in immediately sounds like the theme to Seinfeld. Now, it eases out of that into something else, but it just was so Seinfeld as she's just motorbiking through the town, just describing how dead the town is, nothing here.
It looked like a nice town.
It looked fine.
I know I'm older now, but, it looked like an okay place.
It looks like a nice place to visit once you get to your 30s.
That's fair, but also, it was only the first day.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
they might have a town festival every weekend that she'd be into, although actually considering...
As it turns out...
Amityville is a dark town, as we've learned. There's, we're a dozen plus movies in already. Weird stuff happens there.
Yeah. So she goes to a dirt bike, and she hears children frolicking, and she goes over and finds, sure enough, what appears to be the grown children of all of the high school kids from Uncle Buck. Like, they're all in this weird little fort shelter-looking thing in the woods that is never really explained where it is in relation to anything and or what it is. But everybody is there. Everybody is wearing very dark colors for how sunny it is outside. And it's like just short of wearing like the overcoats and the silly hats from Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
That was a look. That was like...
It was a look. It was like a little bit of the goths on South Park element to it. But not quite. More the Uncle Buck though.
Yeah, they were like much more factoring in the watered downness of your typical Hot Topic goth person. They seemed even more watered down. Like they were in like the fall collection of Abercrombie and Fitch, but trying to act like, hey, we smoke, we do stuff, we're drinking beers.
This is what marketing wants for goths.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. But it does create the idea of this is a high school, and these are the high school kids.
Yeah, and these kids might have their idea of goth from these sources. So, yeah,
they have a vibe. But obviously and immediately, Haley does everything short of say, fuck you, I hate you for living here. And the girls that she encounters there feel kind of the same.
Yeah, they're the mean girls. They're catty, they're the popular girls, they're snotty to her, they're insulting, they call her Failey.
Failey is pretty good.
Yeah.
Failey is like, it's low-hanging fruit, but hey, you knew to pick it.
Exactly. And they're the lead main girl is especially catty because Brett, her boyfriend, has expressed interest or at least had a conversation with Haley about Higher Flux, which may or may not be a real band.
Yeah, and also Brett may or may not actually be the lead Mean Girl's boyfriend.
Right. She has laid claim to him.
Indeed.
But he seems to have chemistry with nobody, so...
And neither does Haley, which of course they're going to be, trying to get together, which, ugh.
Yeah, will they, whatever they.
It's not great. Who is the lead Mean Girl? Her name is going to be important, so I just want to make sure we get it. Teresa.
Yeah. Teresa.
Was her name.
Yeah. So she's off on this adventure. Meantime, landlord stops by to just check in with everybody, and that's where we see like just some really weird gestures and postures, and
she was like talking to them but not engaging with any of them.
Yeah.
Like none of her body language indicated that she was talking to them, and yet she was talking directly to them the entire time.
Yeah.
It was weird.
And just like presenting weird, like standing weird, but she's a weird lady.
Yeah.
So yeah, she checks into, while the dad is at his new job with Mike.
The mechanic.
Yeah, Mike the mechanic and his mechanics. Yeah. So we didn't see the business name, but gold mine right there.
Yeah, Mike the mechanic and the mechanics. It's a tribute band for Mike and the Mechanics.
Right.
I mean, they can hear just as well as they speak. Yeah, that's right. I sort of remember the lyrics to that song. Mike Rutherford, Genesis, man. Mm-hmm. Few people know that Mike and the Mechanics, the Mike is not the actual singer, which was appreciated that he understood what his strengths were. And, I want to do my own thing, but I need a guy that sings, and don't get me wrong, Phil is great, but if I do it with Phil, it's... Why are we just not doing another Genesis album?
Yeah. And Peter's been off on his own thing for years now, so...
I mean, it's his time. Mike and the Mechanics.
Good stuff.
Exactly.
So, and while we've still got Mike in his living years...
and Mike, again, in the quick search that we did, we found no confirmation of this, but he had a very guy in a porno acting style. Like
I can see that.
He is French, so it's probably not his first language, but also it just like his line delivery was very much like Carl Hungus in The Big Lebowski, where it's just like, I'm going to make sure that I speak the expository stuff with very little emotion.
Yeah.
So
the dad is working with him at the car shop, doesn't meet the landlord. Mm-hmm. The mom is at home cleaning the doll and trying to...
Not have sex.
Trying not to have sex. And also planting roses in the backyard. Just had a sudden hankering for roses.
Yeah.
So is starting a garden immediately. And Haley finds a little jewelry music box that doesn't work except when it does, but when it does is not when you want it to.
Yeah, when it does, bad things happen. Like when Shay's taking a bath.
Mm-hmm. Shay's taking the bath while Dad, who has finally come home, is trying to get the pipes clean. Pours a bunch of drain cleaner in through the basement. Pipes are rattling and banging as they do.
I think he was pouring it in a bathroom, a second floor bathroom.
Yeah, then he went upstairs and poured it. Yeah,
okay,
in the
gotcha.
sink. He did the basement first, I think, to clean the main house.
Gotcha.
But yeah, goes upstairs, pours it in the sink with the wife and Shay in the tub.
Shay is in a different bath, in a tub in a different bathroom.
On a different floor, I believe, even.
Maybe
so. I don't know.
No, because they go, when she starts screaming, they go
down the hall.
Down the hall. Yeah, so
but yeah.
Haley's in the guest bathroom. Todd and Jessica are in the master bathroom, pouring the Drano in. Nothing's happening for a few seconds, and then all of a sudden the music box starts playing. The drain drains. And then all of a sudden...
In the sink, the drain drains.
In the sink,
like sharp fast.
Yeah, and then in the bathtub, Shay starts getting burned by the water and is covered in just horrible burns. The production value on this movie for makeup was really good.
It was some good burn work.
Yeah,
there's blood and
the blood in the opening sequence when the other mother gets like eviscerated and then the kid is looking gross. Like all the makeup in this movie is pretty good. There was actual effort and money put into this movie, which was just refreshing.
So yeah, she crawls out of the tub. She's trying to get across the floor, just screaming for her dear life. They finally bust open the door and throw a towel on her. There are no burns on her whatsoever. She's freaking out. Don't touch me, don't touch me. They kind of chalk it up to an acid trip or peyote or something. They're basically trying to dismiss and say that she's back using again.
Yep.
Not talking to her about it at all.
Why would you talk to her directly?
Just arguing with each other through walls that are definitely not thick, because other characters definitely have hurt each other through them.
Yeah, Jessica the mom is really screaming about it this time.
Yeah.
And, Haley is now choosing to be angry at her parents for yelling, as opposed to being being happy that her parents are up in arms about the thing that she has been yelling about the entire time.
Yeah.
She is that bad.
She has to be that contrarian about whatever pisses her off that day.
Yeah.
So,
I hate her so much.
Yeah. So, anyway, they have the big fight, and then the next morning, everything's fine. Shay is fine. No signs of trouble. The parents have made up. Mom is making breakfast.
Still not having sex.
Yeah. Haley comes through, ignores breakfast, and pouts on her way to high school, which she is reluctantly, bravely decided to go to.
Todd the dad goes out of his way to compliment Haley in terms of, hey, what you're doing is difficult. I'm very proud of you. What you're doing is brave. It's incredible. Just like all the exact right positive things you should be saying to your child in this situation.
Right.
And he can barely get the words out of his mouth before Haley is throwing them right back in his face. It's like, proud of what? What am I doing? You're a jerk. Mm-hmm. Haley is the worst.
To be clear, at this point of the movie, we were not endorsing it as highly as we will once we get there.
No.
This is very simple, like bickering family moves into a place. Okay, you have some nods to the others, points there. But it's just bickering family.
It's getting really
and bad stuff's going to happen to them. We've seen some slamming doors. We've seen some, visions. Mm-hmm. Then Haley goes out front and meets Penny.
Penny, the weird neighbor girl.
Yeah, Penny's not allowed to cross this line on the sidewalk from next door to the sidewalk in front of that house.
Which makes a lot more sense once you know what's going on.
Yeah, because Penny's friends with Rachel, who lives in that house.
Don't you mean lived? My family lives in there now.
Oh, she's still in there.
Huh? Don't worry, that will not be paid off on.
At all.
Understand, we really, really like this movie, but it's
got its issues.
There's still a lot of plot holes.
Yeah, and it honestly, there's a lot of stuff in this one that would set it up that I would be happy to watch a follow-up that answers a lot of this stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Rachel and Penny are pretty much... Well, Penny's definitely no longer in the film.
No.
And so we cut to high school. Brett and Haley are... Or no, Haley is in chemistry class with the mean girls who pull a prank and basically dump chemicals together in front of her, get her in trouble, but also, like, ruin her shirt.
Yeah.
She busts out of class, bumps into Brett right in the hallway because he doesn't have class that day.
She had seen Brett when she first arrives at the school with the dirt bike. Brett and her have what can only be described as a moment. It is not a good moment. It is not a bad moment. It is a painfully awkward, unromantic, no chemistry moment where she is real. Like, for Haley, she is throwing herself at this guy. Yeah. And it's everything the guy can do to not pick up on any signs, which, again, now that I'm saying it in retrospect, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But, yeah, they have, like, the closest the two of them have to chemistry is the explosion she just suffered in the classroom. Yeah. Like, once she's out of that room, asking for his jacket, he gives her the jacket, classic romantic move.
He offers the jacket.
He offers a jacket.
Which I think was supposed to be a Letterman jacket, but it's definitely like the school jacket. But it's like, it's hard. If you saw this kid, it's hard to imagine him doing sports.
Yeah. Although it's hard to imagine him as a dirt biker either.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't a dirt biker. He's just a motorhead. He just likes them.
Yeah.
He doesn't have them.
Does appreciate Yamahas, so, you know, they're strong bikes.
But so they meet up. Okay, because, so the flirt, when Haley was desperately trying to get a date with the guy, he said he couldn't because he was working at his dad's bar. And then we cut to the dad's bar after school. And the dad, if you squint, or like when he's in the background, kind of looks like if you took Adam Sandler from Uncut Gems, but then had him push a little bit harder into looking like modern day Steven Seagal. Yes. That, like, we're talking full on Groucho Marx goatee. It's really disgusting. But so Brett has to work at his dad's bar. He finishes up, and then Haley is waiting for him afterwards. And Brett asked the, fairly wise question, how did you know I worked here? Haley says that there are only 2 bars in this town, and one of them's a strip club, which would be perfectly normal dialogue, except when they pan out as they leave, the name of Brett's dad's bar is The Filth.
And with a kind of sign that looks very clearly like a strip club kind of sign.
So if this is not the strip club...
That strip club must be a dive.
I mean, it's got to be just the most disgusting place.
Yeah, it's got to be like plywood and thumbtacks.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah. So they go out for a moonlit dirt bike ride. Which there's a nice little bit of role reversal in terms of, like, gender roles, where she's the one with the motorcycle and, like, she's taking him on the ride and stuff, which is kind of nice. Yeah. But this is when he explains the murder that happened in her house.
Yeah, well, she is opened up by giving us a recap of the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Very important. I had forgotten.
It is a trope of the Amityvilles that somewhere in the movie, one of the characters will just go ahead and explain all of the important parts that you should know for the next act.
Yes. Like a la Rocky and his montages. Or actually, no. A la just like Rocky 4, where, in Rocky 4, before we get to the 3 training montages, there's also a montage of flashbacks from the previous 3 Rocky movies, and then including the current Rocky movie. Which, Rocky 4 is a masterpiece for all of the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and I saw there's a director's cut coming with 40 minutes added in.
Amazing. Yes. Yeah. Oh my god. Can we stop what we're doing and watch that? How could there, like, what else would there be? Like, I want Ivan Drago to be revealed to also be a robot.
That'd be amazing.
I appreciate it. I was on the HBO Max yesterday checking to see if they had Drag Me to Hell, and I had typed out DRAG, and Rocky 4 came up, and I'm like, Good for you, HBO Max. That does have Ivan Drago.
Yeah, good old search terms.
Yeah,
Anywho.
amazing. But so, Jimmy Oberist he killed his sister. He is described as killing his sister by burning her with acid and drowning her as two separate things.
Well, I think it was in the bathtub, which is why Aunt Shay went through what she went through.
I agree, but every time it's brought up, it's like he burned her. He burned her with acid and he drowned her. Instead of just going for he drowned her in acid. He drowned her in acid.
Yeah. It's grammatically clunky.
It was just weird every time. And then also he killed his parents, which is exactly how they say.
Yeah.
It's like, and also he killed his parents.
Yeah. No details. Just
Why would there be
maybe disappointment.
Yeah. But then we get an interlude back at the filth because Mike the mechanic not only knows Shay from back in her wilder years,
like dated her for 2 years in college.
Indeed, but also knows there's something very weird going on with that house, and so he wants to confront Delilah, the property manager, who is in the kitchen of the filth, having just counter sex.
Yeah, we don't know who she...
It appeared to be a cook.
Oh, yeah.
He had an apron on.
Gotcha. So, yeah, not a character.
At minimum, dishwasher. Maximum cook.
Yeah, not a character that sparks any sort of plot line. She's just going to town, and Mike comes in to confront her, and she says, "Don't stop." And so, keeps at it until, she's like, "Okay, no, wait, I have to talk about this."
Yeah.
But, so.
And she has the great line, like the genuinely great line, "The house can't be empty."
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's just like, ooh, see, that's how you set up, there's something spooky. These people are all in on it. I'm like, this is how you bait the hook for the audience. This was great.
Yeah. And then she closes the scene by saying, "Never bet against the house," which is a line we know whoever came up with it stood by it through the production.
Yeah. There was anybody that read that line, and I'm assuming the actress playing Delilah just said, "No, this is terrible. It's bad." One, it's just a cliche. Two, where it sits in the movie and in just the scene was very clunky and terrible. But the writer who is Shay, Amanda Barton, the actress that plays Shay, the hippie painter, drug-addled sister, is the writer. And again, full marks to her. She's really good. But this line was so bad.
Yeah, it was at some point a clever line that needed a home, and it never found it, so it just wound up here.
It's like it's like, think of how, if you've seen Passenger 57, remember the part where, do you ever play roulette? Yeah, always bet on black. Now imagine if that line didn't hit. That's how bad this was. Yeah. This is just like, you hear the rim of the basketball net clanging when she says it.
Yeah. Writers out there.
This is not a central point to the movie, but it bothered us so much.
Yeah. This is what they mean, kill your darlings. You might have that great line. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Put it in a drawer. You might be able to use it someday on something else. But just know when a line doesn't fit, and when you've spent way too much time trying to work the scene up to the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've got that much uphill running to do, it's not going to be refreshing when you get there.
Again, to quote Wesley Snipes, the sage and eminent action star of our time, some motherfuckers always be trying to ice skate uphill.
Yep.
And again, that line worked.
Yeah.
The key, okay, amendation to our previous point. If you have a line that clunky, get Wesley Snipes in your movie to say it, and it will work.
Yeah.
He seems to make them work.
Yeah.
Some motherfucker's always trying to ice skate uphill. That is one of the worst things I've ever heard in a movie, and yet it is one of the best things I've ever heard in a movie. But anyway, back in the house, Haley comes home, and as it turns out, the house is working on Shay to a great extent because, I cannot stress this enough, it's an actual Amityville movie. This is not something that, was a script that got retooled into an Amityville movie, or, what we see more often than not, a completely separate movie that they tacked on something saying that it was an Amityville. This is an Amityville. So we have people moving into a house. The family members start going insane in different ways, including Shay.
And Shay is up in her room, working on her painting stark naked. And yeah, she's working on that. While Haley is looking into one of the previous tenants, the only name she could find off of a little metal nameplate, Cranston.
Dr. Willis R. Cranston.
Right.
We had previously seen this. She got the name. The plaque is on his medical bag, which we had previously seen Shay grab a scalpel from.
Right. And Shay was using the scalpel occasionally to do some painting here and there.
Not the craziest thing.
Yeah.
But a concern.
Yeah. So anyway, Faley is at the library.
You just said Faley?
Of course.
Awesome.
She finds that...
Also, this is when that Shay kind of going crazy, kind of possessed. This is the only time we hear about the dead brother, where she tells Haley that your parents wish that you had died instead of her brother.
Yes.
And that is the first and last time we ever hear it.
Also starts to justify a little of the animosity she feels, even though this is possession talking and not the nice hippy aunt that she's had.
Oh, yeah.
Haley is looking into Cranston, who was a Rose King of Iowa, loved planting roses with his wife. They had a daughter. The daughter had a doll, and in the picture in the newspaper, it is the doll that the mom found in the garden.
Now, but also, to understand, there is this 2-minute sequence. The library.
The next
thing,
10 minutes of this podcast is probably these 2 minutes.
Yeah, because there's a lot. So, as Patrick said, Haley, all of these things are happening at the same time and are very rapidly intercut with each other. Not to the point of incoherence, but we did have to rewind just to make sure that we got everything.
Yeah. Because we're taking notes for this podcast, and as we're writing, you look down for 2 seconds and you miss the doll on screen, or you miss...
Or you miss... Todd is at work at the mechanics, and I love how, like, in other Amityvilles, you see the character, the character being driven nuts, not being able to sleep. Mm-hmm. You see Todds Sleep all throughout this movie. They're really just saying he is so sex-starved that he is losing his mind.
Yeah, he cannot concentrate whatsoever.
Yeah.
He doesn't notice as line of some sort gets unhooked from a nearby car and is leaking whatever fluid it may be. It's clear. It's, I guess, implied that it's gasoline.
I mean, it's going to be flammable. That's the only thing. Like, I don't begrudge... It's tricky to do fake gas in a movie, especially on a budget. It's in it's in an auto shop. It's a fluid that's leaking. Assume it will go boom. Which is a problem because Mike is starting to do some welding right next to it. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want, like, do you have the welding near, like, places where there could be fluid?
Well, I mean, the line popped, so that's unexpected. Which is why everybody around Todd was saying, turn off the torch, turn it off, turn it off. Everybody is yelling, like, take care of this, plug the line, close the, and he's just not hearing it until the very last moment where he stands up and sparks come off and catch the gasoline, which
burns an unnamed mechanic
and Mike
who had been trying to stop them. While all of this, also as a complete side note, which for some reason Patrick completely ignored despite its crucialness to the plot of the film. Bumblebee is in the auto shop. There is a bright yellow Volkswagen Beetle right behind behind Todd the entire time, and also another girl that has a super duper midriff outfit that we can only assume was Megan Fox. Right. You never see her head, so obviously Megan Fox was in this movie. So,
and all of this is happening while the mom is working on the garden. All of the roses have come up dead. And so she's trying to pull them out at first gently, then she's snipping at them, then she's just bare hand ripping them out of the ground to the point where she's hitting herself with them, and like her
Smearing
face is bloody, her
everywhere.
arms are bloody, like
Yeah.
there's just she's covered in blood
And dirt.
ripping these roses out of the ground.
That's all. This is all in like the same 2 minutes, and it was just shocking and amazing.
Yeah.
And then, like, as everybody is burning to death in the auto shop, Delilah, the property manager, just casually walks out of the auto shop.
Yeah, just looks over her shoulder with a grin, like, yep.
Because Mike was trying to. We omitted. Mike was trying to warn Todd that there are nefarious doings and they should get out of the house.
Right, because Mike had already tried to talk to Delilah about saving the family, so she was watching on him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mike is dead.
Mike is dead, and Todd is inconsolable.
Yeah. Haley,
Mainly because he killed them.
Yeah.
Accidentally. But.
The mean girls go to pick on Haley in the bathroom at school, and the teacher just does not care. Every time Haley is picked on, teacher should know better and might know better, but does absolutely nothing to stop the bullying.
But in retrospect, again, people, stay with us. The payoff is going to be great, or it's going to be good, and it will make everything make sense.
So you might have already guessed it.
Yeah.
So we find out that the Cranston fellow hasn't lived anywhere of record since 2004. Just completely vanished off the face of the earth. While sharing this information, Haley and Brett share what can be described in some circles as a kiss.
This would go under the much more factually correct Nathan Pyle Strange Planet thing of face pushing.
Yeah.
Or mouth push. It was a mouth push. It's weird because you see them both lean in their faces and then they start touching lips. Nobody seems excited about this, least of all the audience. It's fine because they're teenagers. I don't want to watch them kiss anyway.
Right, but it's
Stranger
kissing
Things
in the
season 3
same
was weird.
sense as trying to get a USB stick in on the first 2 tries.
Yeah.
Like when it's just kind of banging and like you have to adjust it and you flip it twice and you're like, one of those had to have been right.
Yeah.
But,
And then as it turned out, I guess the first way was correct and this is just what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Brett takes Haley to the fortune teller, Jenny.
Jenny Chan, fellow student at their high school, who has all sorts of crystals and spells that ward off evil. And what happens next was amazing because at first you think it's like Jenny Chan correctly does not want to have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
But she will later accept the request and go to the house to spiritually clean the house, which makes it, in 2015, Jenny is the priest analog, analog to the priest character.
We have
in the
New
Amityvilles.
Age.
It's a New Age thing now. It's not Catholic, but it's still supposed to be. It's like Zelda Rubinstein in Poltergeist, where it's like it's a spiritual a spiritual person that's going to try to exorcise the house. But again, this was this is another Amityville trope that's appearing in the film.
It is the religious authority comes in, and the house is allergic to them and pushes back.
And also, there was the reluctance, which is a key part of the priest thing as well.
Yeah, so good turn on that. Jenny has crystals. She gives a bloodstone to Haley at first to be able to try to do any sort of, whatever. But then when she shows up herself, she's trying to, present crystals and, clean the house. And the crystals are actually fighting even being set on the ground.
Yeah.
Like they're pushing back. She thinks she's got it clean. And then she turns around. Her necklace, which had an incredibly powerful crystal, as noted earlier in the film.
Family heirloom crystal.
Yeah.
First the door slams shut.
Then the necklace shoots up and sticks into the ceiling.
Yeah.
Then Jenny shoots backwards, and once they bust the door down, they find out she's been thrown straight out the window down into the fountain in the yard. And
a fairly artful shot.
Yeah. And good amount of blood coming from the head on that one.
And apologies, I made us jump ahead. We skipped
sorry.
over a very, another crucial Amityville trope. Because Todd comes home after Todd's at the bar drinking his pain away. Delilah makes very overt overtures, to which Todd replies that he's married, and then Delilah tries to act like, I didn't care, I didn't want to, which is like, Delilah,
it's
come
still
on.
personal space, back off.
Delilah, you're better than that. You know what you were doing. Have the grace to go. So he goes home, and Jessica, who we had the last time we saw Jessica, she was cutting herself to ribbons on these roses and smearing herself in blood and dirt and dirty blood and bloody dirt, is just making dinner in lingerie.
She's got a robe at first, but she opens it very quickly, and yep, we've got some very body
Flattering.
classical lingerie,
Which does
like
wonderful things for her.
Yeah, like your can house type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so she gives him a sympathy BJ, which is not to say like it's not a pity BJ, just like, oh honey,
you've had a bad day.
Let me suck the pain right out of you. And then they have a surprisingly not graphic sex scene.
Yeah, like there's no visible nudity, but there are some gestures and some selling.
It's like there's an awareness of how sex should go that you don't normally see in a movie.
Yeah.
That's in this movie in ways that are delightful and hilarious. Todd goes upstairs kind of befuddled, not looking particularly better. He goes up to his bedroom to find...
After he goes to the bathroom, washes his face and hands, which he discovers he's washing his hands, he rubs them on his face, and then discovers they're bloody.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
There was a little bit of love to it, which detail. But then he goes to the bedroom
and finds Jessica half asleep, covered in bandages. So, attentive listener, you were asking the same questions we were. Who the hell did Todd just have sex with? Was it some sort of ghost?
Was it the landlord who was just flirting with him?
Was it the landlord with some sort of glamour? Was it an apparition of the house or a ghost of the previous renters?
Well, in Amityville tradition, it was his sister.
It was his sister! Again, with the sister sex. Jesus
Shay,
Christ.
Possessed Shay, who's definitely going off the rails now.
Yep.
Yeah.
She is in the same lingerie and is kind of like cleaning herself up and is pleased as punch.
Yep.
Because, ew.
So after that, Jenny...
and in between, like, that happens, and then Jenny calls up Brett and agrees to do the exorcism cleaning thing that we talked about before. But it does have, like... this great moment where I think Brett says to Jenny, Haley is a good person. To which both Patrick and I in unison went, nah. It's so good. But then Jenny gets thrown out of the window, and Jenny was a friend of mine starts playing in the background faintly. But yeah.
So now Ginger... Ginger Snap moment.
We have the... Okay, so then... Haley grabs the crystal from the ceiling and turns it into like a warding off bracelet, and goes into high school, and they have a shot that recreates the scene of Ginger in Ginger Snaps after she starts developing her self-confidence post werewolf bite, walking down the hallway of the main hallway of the high school and just owning the high school. It makes no story or character sense at this point in this movie.
But I'm always happy to see a Ginger Snaps nod.
Agreed. Ginger Snaps is one of the best things ever, but it was just kind of like I was very confused. It's like I'm having a lot of reactions that I don't know which are correct. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So
she's at school. She's now got this new confidence.
Yeah.
She goes. She sneaks over to the real estate agent or to Delilah's house.
Property manager, real estate agent. These are all the same things.
Yeah. But starts going through the files and finds that hundreds of people have lived in that house over the years.
Since the 1970s.
None have lived there longer than 3 months. Plenty of people have moved in and out of that house, and most of them are dead, which raises the question about moving out of the house. Mm-hmm. But, apparently, I guess some have managed to get out in time. Either way. hundreds of people, which would explain the sheer volume of Amityville films.
Yeah. And also reveals that the entire town is in on this. As it turns out, or do you want to do it?
Well, go for it.
As it turns out, the Oberists, the Jimmy family that we heard about earlier, they made all sorts of evil satanic rituals and deals with the devil.
Well, they said black magic. They never said satanic. They actually did keep it from going Judeo-Christian.
Fair enough. That is correct. And as a result, the house can't be empty. Some family always has to be in the house, being prepared to be sacrificed to whomever. And as a result, the people in Amityville get to live forever. Mm-hmm. Which it was such a well done moment or reveal, because it explains everything about all the interactions. It's why Brett doesn't want to hook up with the girl, because he knows that she's just going to end up dead. It's why Penny the neighbor can't cross the line, because you don't want to go there. You don't want to meet these people.
Mm-hmm. It explains why the fashion sense is 10 years back. If they're immortal teenagers,
It's kind of a Twilight situation.
Yeah.
And terrible. But, so Haley calls the family and tries to get them out, but they've gone a little nutty. And as it turns, then she calls Brett, and Brett reveals everything, because it turns out everybody's in on it, including the mean girls, who are all at Brett's house.
Yeah, with weapons. Yeah, that was the real surprise turn of at first you're thinking it might be the quiet town knows that something's up and doesn't talk about it. No, they're in on it.
Yeah.
And these mean girls are there with weapons, just so somebody's trying to help somebody. Surprise reveal. This is an active issue.
Haley was at the police. She called her family from her cell phone at the police station because she wanted to tell all this to the police, which is technically the correct thing that you're supposed to do. But she had seen Jenny Chan's body being loaded into a trunk and driven away
by the police.
And so she stealthily follows them on her dirt bike.
Yeah, which not everyone listening is from Baltimore, clearly. We have international stats, and thank you, listeners all over the world.
Do we really?
Yeah, I've seen Australia, I've seen UK, even India.
Oh, dude, thank you, guys. That's awesome.
So, in Baltimore, we have the 12 O'Clock Boys. There's a documentary and there's a narrative feature about them now.
And if you've been listening, you've probably heard at least one of them ride by.
Mm-hmm. We have motorbikes going all through the city. So it's,
it's a thing.
It is a noise that's not stealthy. Though the Baltimore police don't seem to go after them. Honestly, they shouldn't. But
I mean, it does more harm than good. The only harm that they're doing is to themselves, and most of the time not. But
most of the time they actually are, while they might not obey specific traffic laws, they are traffic aware much better than a lot of people in the county.
That's fair. That's true. But anyway, 12 O'Clock Boys. It's a thing, and it's interesting.
Yeah,
but
definitely worth checking out.
So dirt bikes, if you're not familiar, imagine a lawnmower attached to a bicycle. That's what this sounds like.
Now, filter it through a kazoo and crank it up a few.
Yeah.
So that's what the cops in Amityville did not hear. As she follows them to the grave site.
Yeah, where all the unofficial dead bodies are.
Right, not the people who are actually the family, because those bodies are just, I guess, absorbed by the house.
Oh no, those are remember there was a grave for her family as well. Right?
That's right. So but this is. Anyway, this is a mass grave that's been discovered, but with grave markers.
Yeah, and Haley is examining everything when the mean girls show up and reveal that they are in on everything, and the house is going to kill them, and that they have to kill Haley. Or Teresa wants to kill Haley for two reasons. One, she doesn't like Haley, which it's the only thing we agreed with Teresa on.
Yeah, and two,
She stole Brett away.
Yeah, we could have been friends. I mean, we have a lot in common. We both loved Brett.
Brett was never your boyfriend.
Yeah. What do you mean was? And then she throws a bag over. Yeah, they killed Brett.
No. It's even better. Haley said, or you stole my boyfriend, or something my boyfriend. Haley screams, Brett was never your boyfriend. And then Haley says, and now he'll never be yours, and throws his head at her.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry I botched that moment. Yeah.
It was amazing. And then girl violence. Like, legit girl violence. Haley takes out 2 of them with the crossbow.
Oh, no.
Too.
Haley only takes out 1. She gets her shot lined up. She shoots the one right in the eye. And so the main girl...
But Teresa, like, pulled her into... the eye, like, pulled her.
Well, Teresa used her as a shield for the one.
Yeah.
And then slits the other girl's throat on her own.
Yeah, for just reasons.
Yeah, she just kills the other girl because. So now it's Teresa versus Haley. Fight.
And it's a good fight. Like, there's a lot of, like, actual hits, real grunts. It's just, like, it was really good. It's impressive.
So, Haley manages to kill Teresa.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And then goes home to rescue Mom and Dad. Well, first she encounters Dad, who is in the stairwell with a smear of what can only be brains.
Yeah.
Like, the wall is smeared with his brains, and you see where...
Yeah. And not a spatter. Like, it was like brain came out, and then, like, you just push the face along the wall.
And that, like, it leads to right where he dropped.
Yeah.
And it's one of those just like, wow, that's terrible.
We didn't see what happened there, but that's probably more frightening. And this movie has a surprising... Like, it's more off-camera deaths than on-camera, but they're effective reveals for them.
They really are. Like, it's a good... Like... You can fill in the blanks with what happened, but the movie is not the poor for not seeing it on screen.
Right.
As opposed to, like, the Toy Box one, where it was just they cut away for every bit of violence because they couldn't do it on screen for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't great. It was like, it's like in Toy Box, it would be like you're lining up a shotgun blast, and then you cut away and you hear a gunshot. And it's like,
and there were some blood spatters we saw, but they were never quite as effective as they were going for.
Whereas these are horrible tableaus of violence that happened, and this one is nothing compared to. Haley goes upstairs and finds her mother Jessica just
disemboweled,
dissected and splayed. Like, she looks like Julia at the end of Hellraiser, like on the bed, split open, kind of tied up, vaguely.
Yeah, tied up, but like intestines just like folded out. Like, it is a grim scenario.
Yeah, and it looks amazing and great.
Yeah.
And at this point, Shay shows up.
Well, Shay was already there.
Shay was... Oh, right, yeah, she's in the background. Yeah, with a really good shot.
As Haley is walking up to see the mom, there's a flicker of light, and you see Shay just hiding in the corner.
Yeah,
and
it's like kind of Hereditary style.
Yeah, and so you know she's in the corner as Haley is at the bed. Well, she didn't stay in the corner because she snuck under and grabs her from underneath the bed. But then he's also on the other side of the room. She's just like fast-tracking around the room Flash style. And
also, side note, Hereditary, that was a terrifying movie.
Yes, it was.
That movie was legitimately terrifying.
Yes, it was.
Oof. Anyway. And then Shay, like, fully reveals herself, and between the makeup and the very specific voice modulation they're doing, they made her an Evil Dead Deadite version of Shay, which was just a lovely homage. Like, it's just good. Like, I really... At this point, I'm so in the bag for this movie.
That's the thing, like, we had definitely honestly, I think the major turn was when we realized the Mean Girls were either that or the 2 minutes of everything.
Yeah, it was definitely 2 minutes of everything. It was like, oh, wow, there's like
you got my attention. I am now listening to your pitch.
Yeah, and then when the Mean Girls were into it, it's like, oh my god, think of all the Mean Girl tropes in all different movies, but what if they were actually murdering people? Like, I will confess, I haven't seen Jawbreaker. I'm a bad person. But, Mean Girls. So, and then, big goddamn fight. Like, the Teresa Haley fight was good. The Evil Dead Shay Haley fight is that much better.
Yeah. And they're beating on each other.
All throughout the house. And
then the crossbow, like... Haley breaks away just long enough to be able to duct tape the crystal to the end of one of the crossbow bolts.
Yeah, because she tried, Shay had tried to punch her, and then like Haley blocked it with the bracelet,
wrist,
and she was repelled by it. So obviously, like, if Patrick will not give me credit for it, but I said she's going to duct tape the crystal to the crossbow bolt.
I have it in my notes.
And so she does, and she fires it at Shay, and then, man, some movies, like, they're saving their big special effects for, like, they can only afford so many, so they're saving it for the right moments, and then you get to the movie, and it's like, oh, you didn't even have the money for that. This one, no. The fiery death of Shay is really something.
It's fun.
First her eyes and her mouth light up as if there's
first,
fire.
The bolt goes like, it's a full room shot.
Yeah.
And you see her shoot, then the bolt hits her in the head goes back, you start to see it smoke.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good arrow shot. Like, those don't tend to look good in even like large budget movies.
Yeah.
But this one, it
and
worked.
again, Amanda Barton as Shay selling it physically.
Yeah.
Just she's great in this movie.
And then Haley, because it's hurting, shoves it even further. Like, just grabs it and basically, like, smacks it in even deeper.
Yeah.
And glowing eyes and smoke and flame. And the house is catching fire. But it's an Amityville movie. So even if we did see it burn to the ground, we know it's not gone. But the fire was out by the next day. It looked like.
Everything, you see the house completely cleaned up, no dead bodies, everything is like repainted and everything is nice.
Haley's off into the night on her motorbike.
Yeah, hopefully she made it out of the town, but never know. That is a flaw of the, like, it's a flaw that you don't know what happened to Haley. Unless you infer that, or I was going to say that it's also a flaw that you see Delilah is fine because we were told that if the family does not die, the evil in the house will kill everybody else. But then you see Delilah is fine because when after the house is all painted up nice, the front door opens up. Delilah is showing the house to the family from the beginning of the movie. So they got to have their cake and eat it too.
This is a previously on. We are going to flash back to this. Just that's not the thrust of the story. You just need to know that lots of families die here in any order.
Yeah, it's fine because like the main story is a completely separate family, and then it's bookended by that this other family because this will keep going on. And I guess since Delilah is fine, I guess it infers that they got Haley too, or maybe it was enough that they got 3 out of 4.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's why, like, I would like a follow up with some of the rules set on this.
Yeah, I would like to see like what would happen with that. But
yeah,
man,
it was fun.
Amityville Terror was great.
And I even forgot to note while we were talking about it in the final fight, there was one very long single take.
Oh, was there?
There was while Haley is looking around the house, like she's got the crossbow raised, and you're getting glimpses of Shay in different states of demonic in the background. So it might have been just extra, other like wigs and whatnot, until finally Shay's revealed in her underwear, full demon.
Yeah.
But like it's just it basically kind of keeps circling Haley as she's making her way through the house.
That is a good
some
point.
Creative lighting to it, some good background reveals and like teases with Shay, but just good long sequence there. I don't know, like we've hit on a lot of the great stuff, but I know we probably missed notes on some of it. Just
it's worth watching. The resale value for this Amityville horror is very high.
Yeah.
Watch it as
this is one
if
of
you
the
can find it.
Yeah, again, the first chunk of it plays very generic, but they're setting up so many of the tropes that they're just quietly redefining behind the scene.
Yeah, and also as a general thing, like it's very clearly like a digital camera, low budget film, but it's very well shot. There's almost no intentional or unintentional shaky camera.
Yeah.
Everything's in frame, everything's in focus. It's a good looking movie.
There were some scenes in Cars where it was a little shaky, but I mean, whatever.
And also for the amount of dark scenes, everything was still well lit and in focus.
It's very consistently well lit.
It's a very competent movie.
And the sound, which is a giant problem with so many smaller budget films.
Yeah.
Sound was solid pretty consistently throughout.
Yeah. This was...
They did it. They made a very fun movie.
This was delightful. Highly recommend the Amityville Terror. Let's see, next week. I literally just looked it up. Next week we have Amityville, No Escape.
I think...
Yeah.
I did find a copy of that one. Yeah, that
good.
was one that was harder to track down for sure, but I did wind up tracking one down.
Excellent. So
yeah.
We'll get to that one next week, and in the meantime, thank you for coming to our home, and we'll see you.
Yeah. See you next time. If you want to interact with us online, you can check us out on Instagram or Twitter at Amityville Show, or you can send us an email at podcastamityville@gmail.com.